In the preceding movie, we created an animator graph that would put our character into the idle animation state as soon as the game began. But of course, we don't want the character to remain in the idle state throughout the entirety of the game. They should change state to the walking and the pushing state depending on what's going on in the game. In other words, we need to change the state of the animation when certain conditions occur. And what I want to do now is to consider the animation graph further to implement those conditions so we can get the character animating into different states. And we're going to be using the animator window here to do that. So let's consider what we have. Right now we have the idle node, which is colored orange, meaning that it's the default node, so that when playback begins, if I press play on the toolbar, we see that the character immediately enters the idle state, and this state loops indefinitely. So this is pretty good, it's what we want to do, but there will come a time when the character has to move forwards, and when that happens we want to play the walk animation. So what I'm going to do to control these states is create a parameter, and you can see down here in the bottom left hand side of the animator window we have a parameters section. I want to add a new parameter, so I'm going to click the plus button here, and I want to add a new integer parameter. So I'm going to select int from the menu here, and I'm going to name this parameter iState to indicate that it's an integer variable and it controls the state of the animation currently being played. Now I'm going to assume that a value of 0 means that the character should be in the idle state, a value of 1 means the character will be walking, a value of 2 will mean they're pushing the box, and a value of 3 means the character is cheering. So when these values for this state here change to those numbers, the animation state will change. And of course later in this video we're going to be coming along and adding some script to this that integrates directly with this graph and controls this state value to change the animation state currently being played. So what I want to do now is to create a new transition. I want to set up this idle state here so that when the state variable changes from 0 to 1, it's going to change to the walk animation. So to do that I'm going to unravel the character mesh here and drag and drop the walk animation into the graph and just move it over here, and I'm also going to drag and drop the push animation into the graph and move it over here. Notice that in adding these nodes, if I still press play on the toolbar, the character is still in the idle state animation. Adding these nodes to the graph hasn't changed anything, because right now we're in the idle state and the character never changes from that to any of these other states. Of course I could select this walk animation node, right click and choose set as default, and now if I press play on the toolbar the character is walking because this is the default node. And again I could do the same for the push. I could choose set as default and press play, and now the character is pushing the box. So I'm going to switch back to the idle and set that as the default. And I want to create a transition now. So I want to right click on this and choose make transition. And now I get this arrow that I can connect to a different node. And in particular, I want to connect it to the walk node. So I want to change the animation state from the idle state to the walk state when this iState value changes to 1. Or changes out of being 0. So I'm going to show you how to do that, how to configure this link to this walk state in the next video.